When you are in your human self and you're in the frequency, keep in mind that your human self and your higher self exist at two very different frequencies. So when you are attuned to yourself as the human and your focus is directed at everything physical, let's say 99% of your attention, for many beings 100% of their attention is focused in that way, then all that is non-physical is there present, but they are not aware of it, they're not attuned to it. As you tune yourself to your non-physical self, your true self, you become much more able to tune yourself to the aspect of your dog that is infinite and non-physical also.
My dog, Mr. Finley, died in my arms yesterday, and I'm wondering if you can offer me some words, some guidance to help me cope with the grief I'm experiencing.
Well, first of all, we would say to have such great compassion for your human self that has navigated this difficult experience, this stressful experience, this sad experience. We'd say, first of all, focus on cultivating, inviting, invoking the energy of compassion for your human self. But the introduction today really was perfect because what we feel that would help you is this very simple practice every day of distancing yourself from yourself. So you take some time, perhaps 5 minutes, perhaps 10 minutes, to witness the difference between yourself as this observing consciousness, this witness, and your human self. Now, when you do this practice, what's interesting is that you start to shift your perspective into alignment or into harmony with your true self. So you are still aware that your dog is not physically present. You are still aware that your human self is having a response to that. But what's also true as you tune yourself to your true identity, which is non-physical in nature, as you tune yourself to your non-physical self, your true self, you become much more able to tune yourself to the aspect of your dog that is infinite and non-physical also. So as you do that process, which is a practice, by the way, as you practice that, as you tune yourself to that frequency, you will be more aware of your dog where he now is. And so as you become more aware of your dog where he now is, the sensation of losing something will start to first be minimized and over time will likely dissipate. Because that feeling of loss that humans experience is derived from the experience of being disconnected with the non-physical. And so they are losing their ability to communicate and to be aware of any and all things that are non-physical. In that experience, we acknowledge that it does very much feel like loss. We're not saying to bulldoze that sensation of loss because it doesn't exist. We'd say, yes, when you are in your human self and you're in the frequency, keep in mind that your human self and your higher self exist at two very different frequencies. So when you are attuned to yourself as the human and your focus is directed at everything physical, the physical world, your physical experience, your physical body, your mental body, and let's say 99% of your attention, for many beings 100% of their attention is focused in that way, then all that is non-physical is there present, but they are not aware of it, they're not attuned to it. And so yes, it does feel like loss. However, if you make it a practice to attune yourself to your true self, and we've said this before, but it's like turning the dial on a radio, where you're shifting your frequency into alignment with your higher frequency self. And this is what we mean by anchoring yourself there. When we meditate with you and when we say we are helping you until you can anchor that for yourselves, what we mean by that is you are anchoring your awareness at the frequency of your true identity. And then you start to experience in an extrasensory way, and we know you've already experienced this in the last 24 hours, start to experience these other realms that are just as real as this realm. And so, can you understand in this moment? We'll just ask you a simple question. Can you understand how, if you are in constant communion with your beloved dog in the new form that he is in now, if you are in constant connection and communion, and perhaps even if you are experiencing that in a much fuller way than you could while he was in the physical, then can you understand that those feelings, that awareness of him not being there in the physical, that is still present, but it holds less of your attention? Can you feel how that is true?
Yes.
So we're going to just tell you a story because it will assist you. So when Karen's father made his transition last winter, when he made his transition, first of all, there was an experience that she had of doors opening at the foot of his bed. And that next place or that realm that he was transitioning to, she could feel the energy of that. And that actually stayed with her and helped her access that frequency. As the days moved forward, it helped her access that. And that helped her commune with him on a much deeper level. What surprised her about it, though, was that the communication and the interaction was in some ways much more fulfilling than it had been while he was in the physical. And the reason for that is that the physical body and the mental body and just the construct of this reality has limitations. When you make your transition to a more non-physical place, there are, we'll say, less limitations, if any. And so there are many times when communication is actually much more fulfilling, much more exciting, much more interesting when the communication is non-physical rather than physical. We're saying all that to you because if you can hold your attention on the ways in which it is more interesting, exciting, where there is less limitation. For example, while your dog was here in the physical, there were limitations of his physicality, there were limitations of his age, there were limitations of the fact that he was in dog form. And so those limitations, although there was love present between you, it in some ways hindered the communication. So as you move forward, we would say the best way to move through the awareness of his not being there physically is to instead place your attention on where he now is and also start to revel in that new experience and in the ways in which you can communicate with him that you couldn't in the past. So those new ways of feeling, communicating, interacting, also the things that he may be communicating to you or showing you, giving you that glimpse of non-physical reality. Noticing how exciting and fulfilling that is to you, so that that starts to overshadow the aspect of your human self that is really focused on noticing the absence of him physically. Again, the reason we brought you this exercise in the beginning of distancing yourself or creating some separation between the true you and the human avatar you is because you notice that these two aspects of yourself hold very different perspectives. So in this particular situation you're sharing with us, your human self is holding the perspective of something is now missing. But your higher self is holding the perspective of my beloved dog is in a new, fresh place. And when I connect with him on that frequency, I feel new and fresh. So in other words, you have a choice from moment to moment to moment to moment where you place your attention. And that will make all the difference going forward, whether you stay in that lower frequency of grief or whether you use it as a springboard to leap into a deeper connection with your true self.